Hello everyone. Today we'll be doing a linear search algorithm and how we would implement it in pseudocode first, which is here, and then in Python. But firstly, we'll set our max index, since doing in pseudocode, to 6. So if we had the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, we'll have 6 indexes because we start at 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and 5, then 6. Okay, so our max index here would be 6. That's where we want to stop in our array. So I have to make an array. That would be our array. Okay. Now our input will be our search value. That can be whatever value we want. That can be, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay. And then we'll also set a variable found to false. Essentially, that makes found equals 0 in this case. We set it to false so that it stays false until we found our value. Then we have our index. We'll set it to -1 so that as soon as we start our loop, it will be set to 0. So the first thing we do a repetition loop in pseudocode where our index is initially -1 here. Add 1, you'll get that the index is now 0. Then they'll check if my list, which in this case is the array, that's my list. Okay. If my list at the index, which is 0 in this case, is equal to the search value, let's say our search value is 7. Let's just say it's 7. So if the search value is equal to 7, that's our input. We can do that in any way in the code that we want. If our search value is equal to 7, then at index 0 in my list, which is our array, the value is 1. So it has not been found. So if it's equal, then true. But since it hasn't been found, it is not true. So it'll continue repeating this loop here. We'll repeat the loop until this value at the index, since we know it is at index 6, is 6. So each time the loop repeats, the new index, for example, if it's had to repeat once, this new index here would become 0, 0. Okay. So this index here would be 0. Then this new value here for the index would be +1, so it'd equal to 1, and so on. And each time it repeats, the index will increase, and it'll keep checking if that value in the array at that index is equal to the search value. Okay. It isn't equal to that search value in this case, which we can see, until the index is equal to 6. As soon as it's equal to 6, it's equal to the search value, meaning that now that it's equal to the search value, I can now say then found is equal to true. So once found is equal to true, since it was false the entire time, we first set it to false. Once found is equal to true, we can end the if statement, which we have here. We can end our if statement and go to if until found is equal to true, which it is equal to true, or the index is more than the max index, more than or equal to the max index. Let's say the value was not found and it went to an index of 7. Then if found is true, you can say that the output is the value found at the location. The value was found at location and whatever the index is. So in this case, it would have been 6. So it'll print out as an output the value found at the location is the value was found at location 6. Okay, in the array of my list. Else, when the index, the only other else statement we have is if the index is greater than, or if there's an error, if the index was greater than or equal to the max index, which was 6, in this case that would be 7, then we'll output value was not found. Okay? Then we'll have end if, and our code will be finished. So either we would have found it, or we wouldn't have found it. Essentially what's happening here is for our array, where we have my list, through each iteration of our loop here, we are going through the entire array. 5, 6, 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so a linear search is essentially just going through each index, through each repetition, which we will in Python we'll do now. We can use a repetition loop, which is just a for loop, or while loop if we want, but we'll use a for loop to go through each value. So we have our first iteration. If our search value is equal to 7, to go through each iteration, if it's been found, then it'll print this value if search value was found. If it isn't, it'll go to the next index in the array, check if the value stored in that index in the array is the right value. If it's not, it'll go to the next value, and so on. That's how a linear search algorithm works. Once it's found, then the if statement will end, the for loop will also end, and we will find our value and print out whatever statement we want, or do whatever we want in code. Okay, now we'll go to how we'll implement that linear search algorithm in Python. Python's probably the most readable one, readable code that you could use. So I'll just use Python, not Java. So we'll make a function, linear search, where our inputs are the array and x, which we'll call our search value. Maybe I should just call it search value. So search value, and let's make our array my list. Okay, so for I, we'll do our for loop. For I, which is our index, in the range of 0 to the length of my list. You can see it's automatically doing it for me. To the length of my list. So here we're starting from 0 for our index and going to the max length of my list. So whatever my list, which is my array, whatever is the length of my array is what the index is going to stop at. This is essentially setting my max index. Okay, so whatever length my list is, that'll be my max index. You can actually automatically in Python just take out the 0 and just say length of my list. So it'll go from 0 to the length of my list, but to make it easier for you to understand, I'll just say 0 to the length of my list. So it'll go from 0 to whatever length my list is. In the case previously, it would have been 0. Then it will say if, here they have it automatically, if my list at my index, which is I, is equal to the search value. So if we have my array at whatever index is equal to our search value, so whatever point in the list that is equal to the search value, we will return our index. Okay, and that'll be used later when we want to say we found our value at whatever index. Okay, then outside of the if statement and outside of the for loop, once the if statement has if the if statement hasn't returned the right value, so if we find that my list was not equal to the search value, right? If at no point in the for loop was my list, the my list value found that we wanted, but it wasn't equal to the search value essentially, and we didn't return the index, we'll just return false. Or in this case, we can just return 0. 0 or false doesn't make any difference. So we'll return 0. Then this is our algorithm for a linear search. Very easy. Just one for loop and an if statement, and it'll go through the entire array and check whether your value is in the for loop. So let's now make a running program to check if our linear search function works. So let's make search value, let's spell it correctly, search value equal to, what should we make it equal to? Let's make it equal to 6. Okay. And then let's make my list. Yeah, it automatically made a list for us. My list, let's make some different values. Okay. For what else can we do? Do for 8. Let's make a random list instead of a list that is in numerical order. Or what else could we do? What else could we do? 0, 3, make it 0, and 1, maybe 5. Let's make 6. This will be our value that we actually want to find in our array. Okay. So how many values do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 values in our array. That means the max index is going to be 9. So this length here, it's going to take the length of my list and check, and it's going to say the length is 9. So it'll automatically set the max index to 9. Okay. Then we're going to have j equals, we don't have to call it j, but I'm going to call it, maybe we should call it something else. Let's call it x. If x equals linear search, my list and search value. So we're basically going to call our function that we used, our linear search function. We're going to put my list and our search value into the function. Okay. And we're going to make whatever comes out of this function equal to x. So if it returns 0, x will equal 0. If it returns I, then whatever index that is, that's what x will equal to. Okay. Then we'll check if the statement is completed or not, if we have our index or not. So we'll have if, let's make a Boolean function. We'll say if bool x. So if x is true, essentially, because Boolean will either have true or false. So if it's true, then the if statement will run. If it's false, meaning that 0 was returned, which is false, then it won't run. So if it's true, then we can print found at index x, and then automatically done for us. So that's the index that we found. We can maybe make it a bit neater. Oops, make it a bit neater. Okay. Then we have else. So if the bool statement finds that x was 0, meaning false, it'll run the else statement. Else print not found. We can say element not found, or index, or maybe my search value. Search value not, or search value found. Okay. Search value found. Copy this. We can say search value not found. Then let's run our function and see if this works. So we run it, see if it works. Search value found at index 8. This is our 8th index. So we know that this is correct. So our linear search function now works. So this is how you would run a basic linear search function. It's a very quick function, only requires one for loop and an if statement. And that is how linear search runs in Python. And this is how we can write it out in pseudocode. Thank you very much.